My name is Whitney Legge, and I'm the producer and filmmaker of One Thing and Nothing. And I would consider myself a visual artist, a multimedia storyteller. And for the last 15 years, I've found that cinema and any kind of creative outlet is such a great way to communicate issues in the world, offer fresh perspectives of how humans can interact with each other. I really believe, and I've committed to the tool of cinema and film and photography as like a great medium to communicate our social issues. So oftentimes as film stories arrive for me is out of curiosity, but also like how the rest of the world interacts with me. And so really what kind of started this film and inspired this film was waking up in the middle of the night with smoke in my room and realizing that I had to get out of the house. And recognizing that when I got out of the house that everything was fine. I had my body, I had my friends, I had my objects, and I didn't lose anything. But I did realize that a lot of people lost a lot. So I wanted to learn about what it was like to lose a home. And what it was like to experience a wildfire as our climate rises and as our demographics change and urban crawl is real and people don't have homes. So they have to move on the outskirts, and those are really difficult areas for people to live. And it basically creates these wildfire. It influences the catastrophes because there's so many homes that are aligned and built together. So when a wildfire happens, there's a lot more homes that are destroyed. And so I just was really curious as a storyteller to learn about what loss was like and what a wildfire and destruction could be like for those who lost their homes. So I immediately went up to Santa Rosa and I went into a shelter and just saw, all different kinds of people in these shelters, from children to elderly people to youth. I mean, everyone was influenced and really affected by the fires. So I realized that the children, though, were a lot of the life in those shelters. And so when there was a lot of destruction, a lot of misery and loss and sadness, like the kids really brought a different perspective to what it means to lose your home. And so I decided at that point to move into what a child's perspective was of the fires and what home was like and what loss was like for them. In the making of One Thing and Nothing, I really wanted to focus on the child's perspective. And so by doing that, I decided to have the children who I filmed and followed write out a letter of all the things that they had lost in the home and also the things that they decided to take, as well as like asking what home was and what home meant to them. And so the narration of the film is the children reading these letters out loud to me. And I decided to interweave those letters throughout the course of the film. I ended up using an old film camera, the Bolex, and during the Stanford documentary film program, we were set with a challenge to only have 4 rolls of film, which technically means we had about 15 minutes of footage. And so during the making of the film, I actually decided you had to script out and plan out every single moment of the shots, and you couldn't even really see through the viewfinder. But luckily, coming from like a photography background, I knew what kind of light, I knew the kind of shots I wanted, and I knew that the fires on the Bolex film would provide, it would actually be really beautiful when it was destructive. So seeing the black silhouettes of the trees and seeing the homes grays piercing through as things were burnt to ashes. I walked around the grounds many days by just observing the ash, observing what once was maybe a bicycle to what now is more a metal object, more of a silhouette of what was once alive. And so the sound also for the piece was super interesting. What I ended up doing was, since the Bolex you can't use sync sound, so I ended up standing in one of the homes that was destroyed and just kind of listened to whatever kind of sounds that happened in the middle of that house. And so when I heard a crow, or I heard the emptiness of the trees that may have once had leaves were now like hollowing. And then also you could kind of hear a lot of other people crackling through the ground to try to find any kind of objects or remains from the home. So I built a whole sound design based on, you know, potentially what was when what it is now. So pulling from different sound libraries and walking across the ground and getting the crackling of the glass. So, you know, and then I had a chance to meet the family the day I was in Coffey Park, and luckily I just asked the mom if she wouldn't mind if I filmed her children walking around the homes. And now, then I just followed them, and they toured, like they showed me, this is the tree I used to climb, this is the trampoline, this was where the goldfish didn't survive. And so they really kind of took my hand and allowed me to have a tour of what was once their home. I'm still in great contact with the family. The whole family came to one of the screenings in Sonoma, and they all were laughing because in the film we ended up using this kind of rule that the mother instilled by not climbing a tree longer than your arm, and it kind of ended up being the bookend for the beginning and the end of the film. And the mom and child during the audience like had a chuckle because he confessed about breaking the rule, and like in the film the mom didn't know he said this, and because I interviewed him like in a different room. So it was really fun to be able to, you know, share that story with the family. You know, I'd have to say in this project I actually was able to really think about what home is like, and I think the best answer might be actually from the young girl in the last part of the film, where she says, you know, home isn't really about objects. It really isn't about the things that you take or the things you leave or the things you lose. It's about the people inside of the homes, and it's about the spirits. And I think she, you know, this 15-year-old young girl who, you know, lost all her art supplies, all her paintings, everything that she really connected to, and she was able to add levity to what home is and just realize that the people that you surround yourself with, the spirits that carry you through life, really define home. And I think I really resonated with that as a young child. My home was gone. My mom sold our home, and I was living out of a car for a couple of years. So I believe that home is wherever you take it, and I believe that it's about feeling safe, feeling love, feeling comfort with the people you surround yourself with. So that's how I would kind of define home. By using the children's perspective, by using Bolex black and white cinema, by using these cinematic tools through the child's perspective, I think I wanted to have people experience like home all over again, and really question within themselves, like, what are these material objects that we hold on to, and do they define us? Or like, can we move beyond material objects and like also appreciate when something's lost, those things around you? And I wanted people to appreciate loss without having to lose something. And so, you know, being able to tell the story of the children who lost things, for all of us to sit around the room and to listen to those stories, and to be able to take those stories and question, like, well, do I really need to buy this new car? Or, you know, can I give my mother a hug because she's sitting right next to me, because something might happen and I might lose her. So I think the call to action might be like, you know, as our climate rises, as like, you know, these natural disasters, I mean, Mother Earth is doing its thing, so as these natural disasters evolve, and now as loss is a very common human condition, how can we take advantage of the people around us, the things that we have close to our hearts, like every day, and not just when we lose them? By having home as a theme is really genuinely a major concern in the Bay Area and for all of us. And I think by addressing home in all these various modes through cinema, I think is a great way to focus on the future and focus on like what matters and how do we move forward. And so it was really exciting to be part of this kind of festival and this kind of theme this year, because I think home is certainly in the heart, and it's certainly in the things that you involve yourself with, but those are constantly changing. So I think we have to take care of our home. And I think that's what's great about this festival, is it's questioning like what we're really taking care of.